So here we go. We're on. This is GTV. It's the 12th of July 2011. It's a Tuesday, and we're doing another little test upload here. We? Did I say we? Who is this we? I'm doing it. There's no one else here. Huh. And with this little test upload, I'm going to go through some of the news stories from last week. This is sort of a little bit of retroactive news. Sometimes it's nice to think about the news after it's happened, to reflect back on it and to see what effect the news has had on people. Because without a doubt, the news is there to guide us in a very specific way, to make us think about how the world is changing around about us, and to allow us to change essentially with the world at the same time. Sometimes even to program us or pre-program us and prepare us for things. Just going to check my settings here on the computer, and going to change a few things. Okay, going to get rid of that. Got my clock running? Okay, so let's break it down. We started last week with the events of 7/7 that happened in London. So we all know about 9/11 in New York City, and this was 7/7 in London. What's important about that? Well, first of all, there were 4 bombings and a lot of people died. We were told by the mainstream media that these events were carried out by homegrown terrorists and extremists in Great Britain. Oh, there's my coffee. So I have to think about that. Homegrown terrorists and extremists in Great Britain. What does that mean? Well, if you look at immigration in Britain, we have to analyze the fact that since the end of the Second World War, Britain has had a very, very open society and a very open policy on immigration. What has this caused? This has essentially caused the whole culture to alter and change, which is what was talked about by some British ministers. There was an advisor to Tony Blair who made several statements to the effect that it was the aim of the Blair administration, in fact, to increase immigration into the country in such a way as the face of Britain would be changed forever. Now, what does that mean when you have immigrants coming into your country? That really means that that you're changing the construct of society. There is this basic idea that that immigrants will come into the country, they will work, they will integrate within those systems of the country. But the essence of that is not really true. They come in, they work. They are usually coming from poorer countries, so they're going to work for cheaper wages, and they're also going to be siphoning off benefits as well, which is another problem. It's something that I personally disagree with. I don't believe that the British government should be giving benefits to foreigners coming into the country because they haven't contributed anything to the country, essentially. So the British money from British taxpayers should go to British people, essentially. I mean, I think don't think that anyone can really argue with the basic context there. Oh, you can argue with it. You can say it's wrong, but you're going to be climbing a large hill with that. You're going to be climbing a mountain with that argument. You're not going to get to the top. So what are we talking? We're talking about immigration here. So what you see in the cities is that the people come in and they set up their own communities and they live within those communities. So in London, for example, that's the classic example. You got your Chinese community, you got your Greek community, you got your Turkish community, you got your African communities. You've even got your different areas of Black African communities where where one group of blacks don't talk to the other group of blacks because they're black, and we don't consider ourselves as black because they're black, which is just the crazy mentality that develops within this pressurized, forced city environment lifestyle. There were also studies in the last week which released, which show that there are huge correlations between living in cities and mental diseases. I don't have the notes here, but I'll try to find them and put up something after. That there are huge increases percentage-wise in the number of mental problems from people living in cities. And think about it. Think about it. Think about what happens when people are ill or sick. They will get sent to the countryside. They get sent to some health center. They get sent to some spa where they have time to recuperate, recover, heal, and then we send them straight back to the city where they're going to get sick again. So there's ridiculous things that we do. So so we've got these immigrants flooding in. Great examples of a lot of Indians, a lot of Muslims. Indians first groups following the Second World War, then Muslims after that. They come into London, they set up their own communities, their own churches, and fair enough. You want to be with people of a similar mentality. You want to be able to share your thoughts with people who understand you. So you're going to go for a society. You're going to choose a society that is more similar to your previous home environment. It's like with anything. If you like a particular style of music, you're going to search for other people who like that particular style of music. So it's nothing extraordinary. So we have all these different foreign groups coming in, and they're not intermixing. They're keeping within their own communities. Classic example of that I can tell you from my own experience in London is that the end of the street where I used to live, there was a cinema. Went to the cinema one day, went to watch a film, was in the cinema watching the film, and there was a lot of noise coming from people. They were throwing things at each other, and they were having conversations, and I just asked people to be quiet so that I could, I turned around and I said politely, "Excuse me, I'm trying to watch the film. Could you talk more quietly, please?" So they did, and then I walked out of the cinema to be faced with three teenagers, one of whom had a something like a machete, which it was one of those kebab knives that they use for cutting the kebab meat, and he was explaining to me how he was going to cut off various parts of my body, and how this was their road and their cinema, and that I shouldn't be allowed in it. There was no place in this area for me, even though it was the capital city of my country. But of course, that's not important. The bigger picture is not important in the mental uh, projection of society as seen by these young people. What happened following that? Well, I remember it was about 5-6 o'clock on a weekday, and people were going home from work, and they started to form a circle around about us because it was near a bus station and a bus stop, and people were waiting for their buses, and they were all standing there to watch me get knifed or cut up or whatever. And there was a little standoff, and one of the guys came up to me with his knife and grabbed my shirt and pushed me back against the wall, and all hell was about to break loose. And I can tell you right now, I would have probably had a knife through my stomach if one person from the crowd hadn't stepped out and walked over to the boys and said something quietly, turned to me and said, "You've got a few seconds, get out of here before the situation changes." Of course, you don't need a second invitation. You just get your SHIT together, and you sprint down the road. So when we talk about homegrown terrorists, that was the original point. That what we need to think about it is how the society has actually changed and why it has changed. I mean, has it changed itself, or has it been changed by other people? Is there another agenda there? And what I can see essentially in Britain is that the birth rate, I believe, in Britain is 1.3 or 1.4 per family. What this really means is that for the two parents, you're going to have 1.3 or 1.4 children. Obviously, you can't have 0.3 or 0.4 of a child. It's an average from society. Now, in order to have a balanced society, every family needs to have 3.4, 3.5 children in order to account for what happens with deaths in childhood and of young people in various situations, unfortunately. So we need to be having per family about 3.5 in order to have a balanced society. I mean, for the population not to drop. And why is this important? Well, any society which is essentially developing is a society which is growing, and people are part of that development. People are part of that growth as well as the fact society grows. I mean, we have to balance that again with the fact that in industrial societies there tends to be a lower birth rate. This is because of women entering the work. Another social engineering perspective here of the fact that more women entering the workplace now. Nothing against women working. I mean, great, go for it, do it. But there's a price we pay. There's a price we pay for everything that we do in life, and this price essentially is the fact that you're not going to have a family, or it's going to be very difficult for you to have a family, or you're going to have a smaller family if you go out and you work as a woman. Nothing against that. Go out and do it, but there's consequences. There's consequences to everything. So, in many jobs, it's quite clear that women are better at them than men. So, so perhaps they should be doing that. But I mean, what's your goal here? What's your aim, and what do you want to achieve? I mean, are you looking at the possessive society? Is it money to buy products? Are you looking for a family? Are you looking for a more spiritual lifestyle? I mean, these are questions that I think they're important questions that everyone needs to ask themselves about what they're looking for within life, and the consequences of the choices they will make from that perspective. So. I started off by talking about the fact that I wanted to look at something from last week. And last week was it was the anniversary of the terrorist bombings that happened in London, and I wanted to look at a few facts concerning how the government presented the information. Which is, I've given you a little bit of a background picture of society and how society is developing, and I also wanted to make the point there about votes. If you have more immigrants, and over the last 10 years the British population has increased by about 10 million, and how can you do that if the birth rate is going down? That means about 15 million immigrants must have come into the country and started working, and so you have a complete change of society. You have people who have no feeling and balance for their history, essentially, there. You have people who have no understanding of what it is to belong to one of those countries, to be English, to be Scottish, to be Welsh, to be Irish, and what that means historically. So this immigration is going to cause problems there. So in the sense of what the government said we have to worry about that, we do have to worry about that. But who caused that to happen? I tell you, the government caused that to happen for the very simple reason it's the government's job to protect the borders and to protect the rights of the people in the country. That's one of the points I want to make. No time to make any more points today. Leave any comments. Thank you very much. Take care. Where do I stop this?